Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest has nearly 20 years of corporate experience before jumping into real estate. She has a passion for decorating and great coffee, two characteristics that many great real estate agents have. She has a degree in marketing and purchased her first home at the age of 21. She recently became a member of the Coldwell Banker Vanguard Elite Representative Network. We'll learn about that. Let's welcome this consistent top performer from the Fleming Island Coldwell Banker Vanguard office, Danielle Wolbert, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you coming by. I want to tell me a little bit about this Elite Network. It's something recently, right at the end of August, I think you were brought in. What's that all about?
So the Elite Realtor Network is Coldwell Banker's designation for agents that have sold enough production to make it into the top 10% of the MLS.
So it's the MLS overall, not just Coldwell Banker, but top
Correct.
10% in the region here. NEFAR, which is, what do they call their MLS?
Northeast Florida. Real MLS.
Real
Yes.
MLS. That's right. Excellent. I do want to do this first as well because I forgot on my last show. One of my sponsors here, Remy Graphics, do these nice mugs for me here, and I'm going to take that graphic off and I'm going to put this one up so you can get it. Remy Graphics. They'll actually do one-offs. I think these Remy is a real estate agent herself. Not Remy. Dunya Taylor is the Remy Graphics with Remy Realty, but they will do one-offs for you. So if you have a customer and you just want to personalize maybe a couple mugs for the two of them, boom, she'll do that. You don't have to order a dozen. This one is actually yours because it's the last one until I get my new shipment. So I'm going to put this in this nice protective case here, and with your gift bag there. And that one is yours.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I love it.
thank you for coming. So RemyGraphics.com, check it out. They do have other laser engraved gifts to support your needs. So appreciate that. As I always kick off the show, if I was reading your bio, your LinkedIn, which actually you have a decent LinkedIn where a lot of people do not, or it's not updated, but yours actually tells a little bit of a story about you. You're from Maryland.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Tell us about growing up in Maryland and how did you get the Jacks?
So my dad and my mom's whole family is from the D.C., Baltimore area.
Mm-hmm.
So we lived in Annapolis. I was born in Annapolis, Maryland, not the Naval Academy. That's always everybody's first question was your dad military?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. That just so happened to be where he worked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly thereafter, we moved to the Baltimore area and started kindergarten there. And then my dad got a job transfer to Jacksonville,
Oh, okay.
which is how we ended up here and started first grade in Argyle.
So you really grew up in
Yeah.
Jacksonville
Oh,
then?
yeah. I don't remember too much of Maryland. I remember a little bit of snow, and then we moved to Florida. First grade.
Yeah.
So
I know the area. Well, my aunt grew up in Springfield she didn't grow up in Springfield. She taught for over 30 years in Fairfax County.
okay.
And then I lived in Centerville for most of the 90s. So we were doing business all the way up north of Baltimore, down through, Richmond, south there. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
My dad lived in Fairfax County growing up.
Oh,
so.
okay. All right. So you don't get your degree, if I'm reading your bio, your timeline here, you don't go back to get your degree till a little bit later.
No.
So tell us a little about your where'd you go to high school here, and then what were you thinking about doing? What your first jobs? What kind of things were you looking to do? What did you want to do?
Yeah. I knew I wanted to go into sales. I was the product of a salesman. My dad was always in sales growing up, so I learned from the best. And I graduated high school, Ridgeview High School in Clay County,
Okay.
which is where I reside now, and went right away to the University of North Florida. Was in the honors program there. I knew I wanted to do something business related, most likely sales, just because my dad was my hero and has always been in sales. And so started with a business management major and worked at a spa, actually managed a spa at the time, all through college.
Okay.
And
That's why the spa was first before I was looking at the dates and trying to put your timeline together.
I started at that spa. It was called Panache Day Spa. It was probably one of the biggest full service day spas in Northeast Florida. And it just so happened to be in, Clay County, and started working there in high school. This is kind of a fun story. Really was one of my first jobs. I started there as a housekeeper. So I did all of the laundry for the women that were there for their spa day. I served them their lunches, just did the housekeeping stuff for the spa, clean the toilets, all that fun stuff. And then I moved up to front desk and I became a receptionist. And then from there, they needed a front desk manager and started managing the front desk. And then from there, when I was in my second year of college, the woman who managed the whole spa for the owner, she left, and I knew I wanted that job. And so I went to the owner and I told her, I know that I'm really young. I just graduated high school last year, but I'm in school for business management, and I really think that I can do this. And I think this would be a really great learning opportunity for me. And I think she was really caught off guard because I was so forward about it.
Right.
But she said, let me go home and think about this and figure out how we can work it in with your college schedule. And she came back to me 2 days later and she said, I think I've got the perfect plan. She said, I know you're in college and this really is a full-time job. And I've got another woman who was interested. I'm thinking the best thing would be for you two to split the position. And that way you can still go to school full-time. You can manage the spa. She was also thinking this would be, more of a part-time thing for her. So why don't you
Two
both
part-timers
split it?
make a
part-timers make a full-timer. So that's what we did.
Awesome.
And so I got management experience under my belt really, really early on and loved it. But then, after doing that, I realized maybe I really want to learn more of the marketing side. And I thought that would help me, with marketing for the spa and things like that. And so I changed my degree to marketing and ended up getting my
because you were there at the spa, if I
bachelor's.
recall, like 5 years or so, right? Yeah.
From high school all the way through the end of college.
Okay, that's what. Okay, I was reading the spa, and I'm like, oh, she started the spa, and then you graduated later, but actually you were doing
16
both.
years old. I was doing both at the same time.
Wow.
And stayed there and had that job and ended up running the whole spa for the owner.
What was it? I mean, I can just imagine, and you can give more clarity, more color on it. Running a spa like that, obviously, I imagine they're doing everything from cutting hair to massages, all facials, all those things in between, nails, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those people are part-timers themselves. A lot of, I don't know. I assume a lot of them were actually probably paid 1099.
Right.
Yeah.
Some. Most of them were employees and just were paid commission.
Okay, so they had some, but they can take their skill to a lot of different places, and it's always in need for the next great nail tech. The hairstylist, just like a real estate agent, gathers their customer base, their regulars that are coming in, and obviously they want to build that to the point where that's all they have. They don't have to look at getting new customers. So you what was kind of the challenge of the spa from the standpoint of retention, keeping those people happy, so that they are staying as long and they're not looking, for the grass is greener over the fence type of thing.
Right. It was definitely a combination of things. The nice thing, like you said, is for the new people coming in, they were receiving clientele because there were people that would book their spa day, and so they were happy to go with whatever service provider. And so then it was up to the service provider to follow up with them and try to get them back on a regular schedule after their spa day. So really taking care of them and giving them a base of clients, but then, providing training and, we oftentimes did parties for our employees just to keep it fun.
Does this sound like a real estate brokerage?
It does a little bit. It's very,
Yeah.
all, in the business world, everything can be used and honed in on. So.
Right. Because I think one of the biggest challenges for any successful brokerage, is retention.
Right.
And, we have probably a very small, minor percent of agents who have, if they've been doing this business 20 years, have stayed with the same brokerage. Some have only been doing it a few years and are already on their third or fourth brokerage as well. So just, I was looking at what kind of things did you pick up and relate to the real estate world and what you're doing now and working with these people. Obviously you're not a broker, but I imagine now 4 years of experience, you're an elite. They do see you as a pseudo leader in the office, someone that others are looking up to.
It's all about the culture.
Yeah.
It's all about the culture, which is why I chose the brokerage that I'm at now, because, I interviewed with a few and I just knew that, that was the right fit for me. And I think that that's so important in any business atmosphere, is just making sure that it's a healthy, culture for people where
Right.
they want to stay and they want to belong.
All right. We're going to hold that thought because we're going to come around to one of the most important questions is why you chose Vanguard. Um, what did you take? So you go on to a series of other corporate jobs,
Correct.
type of things. What are some of the things that you picked up, maybe even learned about yourself? Because you leave the spa, you're what? Are you 23, 24?
Not even.
Yeah. And then you go and take some of these corporate account representative type jobs. What are some of the things that you're learning about yourself that, because the next question, if you lead into, that you're actually using today, or some of those skills that are working with different people from all over the world, because that's what we got coming into Northeast Florida. They're coming from all different directions. What are some of the things you picked up in corporate America that you kind of instilled into your repertoire today?
I think the biggest thing is confidence. So, looking at my career journey from, starting at the spa in high school and then working into college, I just saw myself as this timid, 16-year-old girl who was just kind of hiding behind the scenes and doing the laundry and cleaning the toilets at the
Right.
spa to, then moving to the front desk and realizing, oh, I can do this. And then, oh, I think I could manage because I have the skill set, I have the knowledge base, and I want to do this. And I've always just been a super driven person. I've worked since I was 14 years old. The minute I could get a job, I had a job.
Right.
And so just always wanting to better yourself, I think, is the most important thing. And that's, what I did. But again, I was not confident when I first went to the owner and told her I wanted that management job, but I did it anyway. I was terrified, but she believed in me. And I think her belief in me is what gave me the confidence to.
Well, that's interesting, because I think a lot of us go through what's the phrase I want to it just vanished out of my mind, but I've been talking about it recently so much. But you're imposter syndrome. That's the word.
Yes.
You had the something in you got pushed you 51% to go say the other 49 is saying you're not good enough,
Yes.
type of thing.
Yes.
She obviously saw you were good enough, but also I could see where you're pulling back on yourself. You're 19 years old, and you're like, I'm going to come in here and manage these women. That were no, sorry, maybe you had some guys in there too. I don't want to be that way, but that have got a lot. Probably have worked for other spas, other salons, all that kind of thing going on. And now you're going to come in and they're like, oh, they just appointed this, this young girl, and she's going to come in here and ruffle the feathers. She's going to stir things up. She doesn't even know what she's talking about.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was definitely part of it. I was 19. And, when I asked for that job, there were women who were 2 and 3 times my age,
Yeah.
managing, the hair salon and the nail salon. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to really be in charge of them.
Right.
If I'm working directly for the owner, they're not going to take me serious. And there was a little bit of some of that. There were some people that tried to, push me or intimidate me.
See how far they could go. Yeah.
And it worked sometimes. I'd go home and cry about it.
Right.
But again, I learned so much through that. And
Yeah.
I learned that it doesn't matter your age. As long as you're willing to do the job, that's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah. Now that I think that what a valuable experience in the fact that the spa owner, gave you the keys basically to run it, obviously with your other part-time partner. But I mean, what an opportunity,
It really was.
in going through school. So what is it about real estate that, you're in these corporate account management? Do you have a friend that was a real estate agent? What was it that started to put your eyes on real estate?
I really had always thought about it, even in high school. I thought it was something that I, would be interested in doing. And when I was in high school, my mom actually worked for Coldwell Banker. it was not Coldwell Banker at the time. It was just Vanguard GMAC Realty.
Right.
But my mom worked there. She was not a realtor, but she helped with their marketing and did a lot of the office administration type things.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom went out and got her license and didn't really end up going into real estate, needed a salaried job at the time, which I completely respected. But she would always come home talking about it. And it was something that she was passionate about. And I knew that it was something I would enjoy with, you had mentioned in my profile, I was always into decorating. I mean, in college, I was always shopping and decorating my room and changing it, looking at houses. I was a big dreamer. So it was just always something that, I was interested in. But, as you start working and have a nice steady income coming in, it's scary to take that leap and go into a job where you don't make any money until you sell something.
You got the benefits and everything of corporate America, even though you might be working for some commission, there is some structure there. People like to think the name, but really, I think I think you would agree in this business now, whether it's a loan officer or a real estate agent, it's really not the company behind you. For me, because there is a lot of back office stuff doing, but for you as a real estate agent, you are your brand. You are who you are, and they're buying you. They're not. The Coldwell Banker Vanguard is behind it and gives it some credibility that you are a legitimate agent. But when it comes to the service quality and everything, it's each individual agent themselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
We skipped over to bought your first house at 21.
Yes.
How did that opportunity come up for you?
Well, I had that, steady job at the spa, and that really, launched me to be in a position where I could buy a property. That was in the
And you were still going to school.
I was still going to school. I was in my last year of school whenever I ended up buying. It was a townhouse.
Yeah.
But that was just a really, really big accomplishment for me. I had a good job. I was managing. I actually worked a couple other part-time jobs through college too.
Yeah.
But, I was just a hard worker.
Yeah.
So I had enough money for a down payment, and I did it. So instead of renting, I saved up enough to where I could just put a down payment down on my first
just
home.
speaking, I mean, I know right now that it can be difficult because obviously where interest rates are at, home values at all-time highs. It's really difficult, but you were in the grind. I mean, you had the grit to put it together, work multiple part-time jobs to get that first townhouse. Do you still own that townhouse?
I actually just sold it a couple years
ago. Just sold it a couple years ago.
I did. I had it for a while and had it as an investment property, and it was really good. It was a great first home and a great investment. And
probably had some decent equity growth off of it, and how it can change the trajectory of someone's life to be able to get involved and buy a home in your young 20s like that. And then the fact that you had made it an income property shortly thereafter, and what it's been, I'm going to guess 20 years or so, that you've owned that home. Yes. So I don't know if you almost had it paid off, but it certainly, did it even double in price value?
It didn't quite double in price because I bought when the market was high, before the crash.
Yeah.
But still, I still had equity based on just time.
Well, I was just talking, we bring it up occasionally, those agents have been here long enough to bend through the 2007, 8, and 9, when the housing values had dropped considerably. You bought on the rise, but you held it long enough that now you actually, it's paid off for you from an equity side, because you let the renters pay your mortgage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I sure did.
Just really stepping stones. And I think, I had a very, a young agent on in her mid-20s doing very well, but we were talking about her friends that are in her age group and so forth, that they think they want to buy a house, and if they're able to in their 20s, they're thinking like that's the end game. When not realizing, like what you did, buying that first townhouse, knowing that was a starter home for you.
Right. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah. The education out there, you need to put the grind together and get in the game. Yes. Get in the real estate game.
Get in the real estate game. Don't pay somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah. All right. So you have this fancy for real estate. What happens? What actually triggers you to make a move? Or do you just go, hey, let me just go take the test and see what happens? What happens here?
it's a combination of all of that. In 2020, I think COVID caused a lot of people to reevaluate their lives and what they were doing, because for a lot of people, what they were used to and the way they were used to working completely shifted. And that's what happened to me. I was working for a bank. I was in banking sales. I covered the entire state of Florida. And I, for a while had traveled, and my favorite part of my job at the time was sitting face to face with people. And that was all completely shut down during COVID. I worked for a bank that was out of the Midwest, and, where Florida was a little bit more open than the Midwest, they told all of us around the country that we all had to move our meetings to Zoom and not face to face. And for somebody like me, I'm, face to face is just what I love. And
that's why I like doing the show face to face.
Because
I'll do some
genuine,
Zoom, but
it's real. Zoom's not the same. And when you're on, conference calls and corporate trainings all day long, the last thing you want to do is have another meeting with a person face to face. And when you can't even see people, your family across the country and all that, people just are craving face-to-face contact, and that was completely cut out. And so I did almost a year of that, and it just wasn't the same. It just wasn't rewarding anymore. And I think a lot of us kind of did that whole, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And you kind of start rethinking things and wanting to start over again. And I really did just sit down and make a list of, things that I had thought about doing in the past. And real estate was still on that list,
right,
as it was before. And finally, I was like, why don't I just try this? Why don't I just take the next step? I think when you look at doing something different and making a big life change, it tends to become overwhelming. And I think that's what I did in the past. It was like, oh, this is too scary. Yes, I've been in sales, and yes, I'm confident in my abilities, but that's scary to move from a good, cushy bank, salary job where I did make commission on top of that, but, I had benefits and all those things. It's just scary to take that leap of faith and start a job where, you don't make any commission until you sell something. But I did. I just decided to take the next step.
So did you have some conversations with some people?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Started talking to my husband. I run everything by him.
Well, I would expect a change like that. Yeah, you'd have that.
It was a big thing, but he was totally supportive and was like, the most important thing is that you're happy and that you're doing what you love. Life's too short to not do something that you love. And so I started talking to him. I signed up for the class. I was like, okay, I'll just take the class and then we'll go from there. If I decide, after taking the class that I feel confident, then maybe I'll quit the bank job. So I signed up for a class, and then I immediately thought of Kim Knapp, who I knew, my mom knew because she worked at Vanguard at the time.
Okay.
And so I reached out to her and said, I know that you're very well known, in the industry, and I just want to pick your brains. And that was before I even took the course. And she was so generous with her time and sat down with me. We talked for well over an hour. And I just told her, I want to go into real estate, but I'm scared. And what advice do you have for me? And she was wonderful. She gave me so much great advice. She gave me a ninja selling book and told me to read it. She said, this will be the best thing you ever read. If you decide to go into real estate, this will jumpstart your career. And I did. I took that book. I read it before I even took the real estate course, which was awesome. And I highly recommend that book.
What is it? It's
Ninja
they talk
Selling
ninja.
by
It's just
Larry
ninja
Kendall.
selling.
Yes.
Because I'm up for. I just finished a book. I'm gonna get this one. I listen to Audible on my way back and forth. Though.
Yes. It will be a game
Ninja
changer.
selling, because I've heard others talk about the ninja program or whatever, and I never dug into what they were actually referring to. I knew it was a training of in sales, but what? So I'll learn what that what is.
Yes.
Because Kim is, I've talked to others who went to Kim first. There's some others who Kim said, hey, go talk to some other brokers. And they never came back to Kim, unfortunately. I guess it's one of those things, if you love something, let it go.
Right.
Did Kim suggest that to you? Or
she did. She said talk to other brokers and just, get a feel for it, but, make sure it's a good fit for you. But I knew right away that day that she was somebody that I wanted to learn from and have mentor me. So I really didn't interview any other brokers. I knew I'm going to get my license. And if I do decide to take this leap, I'm going to go work at Coldwell Banker Vanguard. And so I told Kim, as soon as I get my license, I'll call you. And so I took the 7-day 60-hour course,
Right.
the crash course, and studied for a week. Got my license, took my test the following week and was licensed. So that was all in December. And December 30th, I had my real estate license and called Kim Knapp and said, I think I'm ready to do this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, what's some of your first, now you're going from corporate America where, you were working remotely, so you probably kind of structured your day and type of thing. But like any bank, I mean, 5 o'clock, they're closed, right?
Right.
Everyone, or it's it's Labor Day, it's Memorial Day, they're closed.
Right.
President's Day, whatever.
Yes.
Now you were on your own. The first day you're walking into Coldwell Banker Vanguard. Just talk about some of the things that goes through your mind in that first couple of weeks walking in there. There isn't a check coming. The benefits are cut off. What's going through your mind?
Right. Complete terror. I was terrified. I was excited, but I was terrified because, again, it's like, okay.
Sounds like Back to the Spa at 19.
Yeah.
It's 19 years.
Anything new is intimidating.
Yeah.
It's exciting, and you're ready to just crush your goals. But then it's like, okay, how do I do that? And so again, went to Kim and was like, what's the best way to get started? And she said, just reach out to all your people. Tell them you're starting in real estate, and it's all about just getting in front of as many people as possible. And so that's what I started doing. And that's really what the Ninja Selling book is about. And so I was so grateful that I read that book because it did give me a system and a process to follow. And it really is all about relationship building, which is so natural and so comfortable for me that felt like the right thing to do. So instead of, just picking up the phone and asking people if they want to buy or sell a house, I really just started loving on my people and sending them cards and asking them to lunch and telling people what I'm doing and asking if they'll just support me.
Right.
And so, that's how the business took off.
So fortunate for you, you pretty much grew up there.
Yes.
You went to Ridgeview High.
Yes.
You know a lot of people locally just from there,
Right.
and friends and associates that are there. Did you have a marketing budget? Like you said, you're sending out cards or some things that you're taking people to lunch. There's an expense there. Did you have a little budget for that? Or your husband's working and you just, hey, you both agreed this is what
Right.
I'm going to do.
Right.
Because there's only so many cards you can send in a
Right.
day and so many lunches you can have in a
Right.
day.
Absolutely.
So we knew there's, a kind of a reasonable cap of expenses.
Right.
But did you have that plan?
It was a very minimal budget. Just I'll try to do 2 coffees or 2 lunches a week. So it was very, very minimal. But really, the idea and what I did was just to stay in front of as many people as possible, even if that meant, in my normal life circles at the gym or wherever, just talking to people. And so that's what I did. And then just following up with them and not even talking about real estate, but just talking about life.
Right.
And staying top
But
of
you did
mind
want to
with
share
people.
with them because now
Oh,
you're
of
changed
course,
career,
yeah,
right?
Because I needed people to know that I was new and
Yeah.
that I wasn't in banking anymore. So it was just a lot of, this is what I'm doing now.
Right. How long does it take you to get your first deal?
It only took me, I had my first deal. Let's see, I started in January. I closed my first one at the end of April. So
Okay.
about 4 months.
Okay. It sounds simple to some of the things you said. Oh, I just but I would imagine you had to structure your day. Imagine, obviously listening, Ninja Selling.
Yes.
It isn't just, hey, just get up when you
No,
want in the morning and go
no.
walk out, and maybe you'll run into some of the
No.
people that you know.
Not at all.
What kind of structured things did you
Sure.
create to, besides having, 2 coffees or 2 lunch? That's a structure. You're setting a
Right.
schedule and you're having.
It's a little
What are
piece
some
of
of
it.
those structured things that
Right.
you were doing?
Just I just wanted to work. Like I told you, I've always had a job since I was 14. I'm a worker. And so I just showed up at the office every morning at 8 o'clock. I wanted to be the first one there. So I usually was the first one at the office besides the person who was turning on the lights, because I wanted to be in the office and I wanted to hear from all of the experienced agents that have been doing it 15, 20 years. And that was a piece of advice that somebody else had given me. And I was willing to take any advice that was coming my way. at the time. And so I was at the office every single day, and I was just looking at, what was going on in the market. I was there asking questions, listening to conversations that the top agents were having. And asking them if I can host their open houses for them, So
Right.
I wanted to be there. I wanted them to see that I was at the office every day. I was willing to work. I was willing to help, the other agents. And I think that was a big part of it also. I was hosting not just one open house every weekend, but a lot of times 2 and 3, sometimes 4.
Right.
Whatever I could get, I was taking.
What are if you can maybe even share a specific story if you can recall, um, of something that not necessarily wowed you, but something you didn't know, that you picked up from one of these agents about real estate. Because I think you used the word confidence earlier, and a lot of agents come in and they're obviously like anything, you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and so you're not confident at first.
Right.
So you're trying to gather some of the knowledge of 5, 10, 15 years, agents who have done a number of transactions. You're trying to grab some of their knowledge and their experiences and put it into yourself so you can have a level of confidence. But in listening or working in open house, was there anything you were like, oh my God, I didn't even realize, good or bad or indifferent about real estate that you didn't already know?
There was so much. I mean, it's hard to even pinpoint one thing. I had a notebook, a very small notebook that I would carry with me everywhere. And the minute I thought of any kind of question, I would write it down. And so, part of my routine every week was, again, just trying to get in front of agents. And even though we're all, independent business owners, and that's the one thing that I loved and why I chose the office that I'm in, because I did see that everybody was willing to help and was willing to share. And that was the culture that I wanted to be a part of. And so I would ask, these agents, can I just ride for you? Can I just see what you do and how you talk? Can I learn the lingo? And thankfully, there were so many people that were willing to let me do that.
So okay, well, I'm glad we dug in and dug that out of you, because this is what I want to share for the listeners. You did some ride-alongs.
Oh, absolutely.
Went to some listing appointments, went to some
Absolutely.
buyer consultations.
I went to all of it.
What are some things that you picked up, whether it's style or process that you picked up from these agents on these ride-alongs?
I mean, I learned that everybody was so different and so unique as far as their style and their processes. So
Not only the customers are different, but every agent had a
Right.
little bit different way of doing it.
everybody.
Yeah.
And so really it was just a matter of taking bits and pieces from each person and then adapting it to make it work for me and for my clients.
Right.
So it was not just one thing. It was just little bites of the apple that, you would just take. I would take notes on everything. And again, little by little, I was just adding more to my processes and to the things that I was saying and doing.
What do you think during that time was probably, like I said, there had to be something that you didn't know about the business that you learned when you went out and sat beside them. It'll crack.
Yeah.
I'm just there because I think in everybody's, you change career, change total industries, basically. I mean, banking, but you're a real estate agent now. You're hanging out with these real estate agents, listening to what they're doing and how they're presenting, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't even realize, because where we go back since the internet age, and they have been telling us that eventually, we won't need real estate agents. I remember my girlfriend in college. Her father was actually, he eventually became president of the bank there at the time. He's passed away since, but he said like insurance will be sold out of vending machines, eventually. But really, the real estate business, every customer's different. Every home's different, every negotiation, all these little things that is involved,
Right.
that people don't realize that real estate agents are there to obviously guide and instruct how to get through those little bumps in the road,
Right.
and that there's no way that a computer can replace the human transaction, because our homes are all different. It's not an apartment complex.
Right.
We're all, hey, you want a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, or 3-bedroom, boom, that's it. because that building's right in the same spot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Every house is different, whether you're living on that side of the river, this side of the river, going to Ridgeview High versus Clay High, whatever it is, you know, that customer wants or needs, right?
Right.
Type of thing. So as I say, if there's what I'm trying to hopefully bring out, maybe you'll come up with it later, is that situation where you're sitting down with that agent and all of a sudden realizing, you know, maybe the type of transaction that's going on and going, oh my goodness, I didn't realize you needed to do that, you know, because I think there's so many different things that we stumble through, and agents who have been doing this for years, we still, and as loan officers, we still run across stuff that we haven't, and we've got to go to others who hopefully have seen it,
Right.
to put it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's what you're trying to get at, is that no two transactions are ever the same, based on, you know, you're always dealing with a different seller, a different buyer, a different, you know, and they have unique circumstances in their life. And so, you can't have technology completely take over our roles, because one of the biggest things is when these bumps happen, you have to know who to go to.
Right.
And part of being successful in this industry is not just us, it's the team of people that are behind us. So having a solid lender that we can go to ask these questions, or, you know, being able to go and reach out to the property appraiser and having a connection with him, or, you know, the title attorney, and just, you know, all of a sudden we need to change something, or we need to draw up some kind of separate agreement. We've got to have these people in place to support us and to make things happen quickly, because things are changing on the fly.
Yeah, you made me just think of something. I mean, because there's some people that are good at translating the issue to the customer. You wouldn't allow that. There's some people that are really good at getting the information, but you would never allow them to talk directly to the customer, because the customer would probably hit the ceiling if they heard them tell it, versus you taking it and going, hey, this is our challenge. This is how we're going to overcome it. And a lot of that times, I'm just thinking of that title attorney. Some attorneys can be very, you know, they don't have the personality. Basically, it's just their business,
Right.
and they can tell you everything that's wrong with it. And or the home inspector, right? Isn't that a big thing in home inspecting? And when the home inspectors have gone, their business has translated into a relationship. And how do you take the report and explain to them that it's really not